come out here before the games, or if you just want to come out here not during a game, you want something to do, come to the BetMGM Sports Lounge. You can bet, you can eat, you can drink, you can just hang out and have a great time. D-Mase is on remote today. Willy Donick will join us later on in the show. He's at Morning Skate in Dallas. But D-Mase, how are we doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. I wish I could be there with you, Caroline, but obviously I'm not. Feeling a little bit under the weather. I didn't want to get any one of y'all sick. So I decided to do it from here, from my office. So, but hey, the show don't stop.
Show never stops, indeed. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people. I saw Paul Kaharski tweeted earlier that he has COVID. A lot of people feeling under the weather. The weather is bad outside. The streets are slick. So be careful out there. Take care of yourself. Drive slow. D-Mace, I want to start on a coaching search today because we'll get back into Joe Rexrode and Diana Rossini's article in The Athletic because I do think that looking back and reflecting on what went wrong between Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Vrabel and this organization is important moving forward. I think it's important to know what Amy Adams Strunk truly wants for this organization, but we are officially in coaching search time in Tennessee. So before we get into exactly who the Titans have requested interviews from, some candidates that we might like, some candidates that we might not like, first and foremost, D-Mace, just overall qualities that you would want to look for in the Titans' next head coach, whether that's offensive versus defensive guy, whether that's the experience that this person has had. What are you looking for? What are maybe some of your non-negotiables?
Well, first, can the head coach, be a leader of men? Can he develop the talent? I think that's what we've been concerned with this whole time under Mike Vrabel is the talent development here in Nashville. Outside of, Byard and Henry and Simmons and McQuarrie, how many of these guys has truly developed underneath this coaching staff? They haven't signed many guys back to second contract. So first and foremost, you need a guy that's going to be a leader of men, and then also a guy that can develop talent, or a guy that has an eye for good coaches that also can develop talent. Jerry made a good point the other day in regards to what type of coach you should be looking for, whether it's a defensive coach or an offensive coach. And he brought up possibly getting an offensive minded coach because you know that eventually if your offense is doing well, whatever coordinator you hire, he's going to get another job somewhere else. So if you have that framework with the head coach, an offensive minded head coach, then no matter who comes or who goes, that philosophy and those game plans are still there with the head coach because he's ultimately the mastermind of this offense. But first and foremost, you asked what I would be looking for: a leader of men and the development of talent. That's it.
And that's what I think is key, at least for me, looking back on the reasons why I thought the firing of Mike Vrabel was justified. One of those reasons is I don't think the players have really developed very well. Let's look at the
Hmm.
drafts over the last few years. And look, John Robinson deserves a lot of blame for that. But I also have to ask myself, how many of those draft picks that we deem to be failed draft picks or busted draft picks, how many of those were truly bad draft picks and how many of those players just haven't been developed? Looking back, let's go back 3 4 years. How many
Okay.
players that the Titans have drafted over the last 3 to 4 drafts have gotten better since they got to Tennessee? Traylon Burks hasn't gotten better. If anything, he's gotten worse. Peter
Hmm.
Skoronsky hasn't gotten better. There's not a very long list of players that you drafted with a high draft pick that have come in here and have gotten even better and have been integral parts of your team, whether it's offensively or defensively or special teams, whatever it might be. So I would agree that I think player development is important here. I think that the number one thing, and maybe not number one, I mean, no, I will say number one. I think the number one thing for me that you have to consider, what's the most
Yes,
valuable asset to your team right now? It's Will Levis.
your
So I
quarterback,
think when you're
absolutely.
it's the quarter it's always going to be the quarterback, especially when it's a young quarterback. So I think that you have to keep Will Levis in mind as well when you're going through this coaching search. Offensive
Yeah,
versus
but
defense. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but what Rand Carthon did say, listen, we don't want to just bring in somebody that's going to. I think maybe not quoting him verbatim, but you just don't want to bring in someone that's solely, concentrate on developing a quarterback. This whole roster needs development. So yes, you have in mind as far as guys you want to bring in. Are they good developers of quarterbacks?
Hmm.
Those guys are typically, the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach. That's why I said, for me, you got to hire someone that knows how to hire a staff, knows how to hire a good staff, and that was one of the areas that Mike Vrabel seemed to at times fail at, hiring his assistant coaches, whether it be offensive line coach, whether it be the special teams coach, guys that didn't develop, or the quarterbacks coach before London, that didn't develop the quarterbacks or the players that you wanted, that you had on your roster. So to me, yeah, you have to get someone that's capable of developing a quarterback, but I don't think that should be like the number one criteria for your head coach, because you should believe that whoever you hire, they then will hire good assistants that will develop your quarterback.
Are you set or married to either an offensive or defensive head coach?
No, I'm not there to either. Because we see what D'Amico Rise is doing in Houston. He's a defensive minded coach. Vrabel was a defensive minded coach. There are defensive minded coaches out there that do a really good job at being leaders of teams. You have, if you're going to go down that route, then like I said before, you have to, hire people that are outstanding at doing their job. And the job that the task right now is to develop this roster into a winning roster, develop your quarterback, develop your tight ends, develop those young offensive linemen. Because if you don't develop those guys, you're going to be back in the same situation you're in now.
I want a defense, or excuse me, sorry. I want an offensive head coach. I'm not
Yeah.
married to an offensive head coach.
Uh-huh.
If the Titans, because the Titans have put out a list of players, excuse me, of coaches that they've requested to interview, and we'll break down those coaches. We'll break down those interviews that the Titans have requested, and there are defensive coaches on there. But I want an offensive head coach for a few reasons. Number one being what I just mentioned, the quarterback.
Mhm.
That I want continuity and consistency with the quarterback. That if you bring in a defensive head coach, absolutely you can bring in a great offensive staff, an offensive coordinator that you love and believe in, that can bring in a quarterbacks coach that you love and that you feel like can develop Will Levis very well. But what's the story with really great coaches and coordinators? They end up getting jobs elsewhere. That if you bring in an
Exactly.
OC that you love and you believe in and he comes in and he just absolutely kills it, well, that's going to be the hottest head coaching name on the market next year, 2 years from now. Well, then that OC goes out and gets a head coaching job. You bring in a new OC. Well, then you're bringing in a new offense, yet another offense for your young quarterback to learn. When Will Levis has already learn what, three, four different offenses in as many years. So I want as much continuity and consistency as possible offensively, where a head coach can bring in an offensive head coach can bring in his offensive philosophy and his offensive style, and that is the offense that you run. That no matter what offensive coordinator that you bring in here, that is going to be your offense. That you have consistency, constantly changing the offense, which they changed it in when they brought in Todd Downing, and it was West Coast Shanahan, Sean McVay system. But so you bring in Tim Kelly, change up the offense. I doubt Tim Kelly is going to be retained by the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans, so you're changing it yet again. I want continuity and consistency specifically for Will Levis as far as Will Levis is concerned. And just look at the league. The league is
Mhm.
trending to more offensive, and you look at some of the most successful coaches in the National Football League. I understand, but Belichick's a
Mhm.
defensive guy. I understand that. Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Shane Steichen, if we want to throw him into the mix in just his first year in Indianapolis. There are so many offensive minded head coaches that are finding so much success in the league, and that's just the way that it's going. When Amy Adams Strunk said that she wants to kind of modernize this team, and when she said that, I do believe that analytics were a good bit of what she meant by modernizing the team. But if you want to modernize the team, you're going to have to modernize the X's and O's of that as well. I mean, frankly, the Titans were just running an antiquated offense these past few years.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. And that's the same point that Jerry made on his show a few days ago. That yes, it would be nice to just bring in a coach, a leader of men.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem you run into is if you bring in an offensive, if you just bring in that type of coach and then
Yep.
you hire your offensive coordinator, if the team does really well, you're talking shelf like 2 years, and he's moving on to a head coaching job in this league. And then you have to start the cycle over again and find an offensive coordinator. So I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be put off if they did hire an offensive minded head coach because, like you said, look at the coaches that are in the league. Just a few: Andy Reid, Mike McCarthy, Doug
Yep.
Peterson, Sean Payton. These guys are offensive minded coaches. So when their coordinators leave, the system and the scheme is still in place. So maybe the Titans choose to go that route. But I mean, they only got to pick up the litter. They only got a few that are pick up the litter. Guys that they believe that can come in here and get the job done, not just be an offensive minded guru, but also be the leader of men. Because we saw, Josh McDaniel, hell of an offensive coordinator,
Not a good
but
head
he's not a
coach.
leader of men. Exactly, absolutely. So that's a fine line that you got to tote with finding the right head coach that's an offensive minded coach but also that can, talk to these men and put into these men and lead these men the way they need to be led.
So, who is that coach? The Titans have
Ooh.
already casted an incredibly wide net. They have a long list of coaches that they have requested to interview. Who stands out from that list? Plus, what is the competition on the market looking like? At a whole lot of openings across the NFL. So, we'll get into that list. Coaches that stand out, coaches that we like, who we want as the next Titans head coach. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're live out here at the BetMGM Sports Lounge. It is brand spanking new here in Bridgestone Arena, and it doesn't even need to be, you don't need to come out here on the day of a Predators game. Come out here whenever you would like. Grab some food, grab some drinks, play some bets. They've got a massive screen. They've got screens all over the place. We've got the Pat McAfee show on. We've got hockey on. We've got the SEC network on. We've got the NFL network on. So come hang out here at the BetMGM Sports Lounge. Caroline, Willy, D-Mays for brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're here at the BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. This place is brand new. It just opened. If you're familiar with the Patron Club, the old Patron Club at Bridgestone Arena, this is the new Patron Club. And it is really, really cool. So come out here, grab some drinks, grab some food, play some bets. They've got a bunch of screens, so it's a great place to watch the NFL playoff games over the weekend. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're broadcasting live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. We officially are in coach search mode. D-Mase and I are kind of in lockstep of, look, I would probably prefer an offensive head coach, just looking at where the league is going. The fact that your most valuable asset on this team right now is Will Levis, your young quarterback. And, if you bring in a defensive-minded head coach and you bring in a great OC that you love, that's great. Until that offensive coordinator leaves in 2 years, 3 years for a head coaching job. So I would love as much offensive consistency as possible. But who is that? Who is that coach that could come in? The Titans have requested interviews with several candidates on the market, one being Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. He is going to be one of the hottest commodities on the NFL head coaching search market. One interesting thing about Bobby Slowick is his history with the 49ers, his relationship and history with Rand Carthon when he was in San Francisco. More on Bobby Slowick in a moment. Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, those two also incredibly hot commodities on the market. Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, Cowboys DC Dan Quinn, Raiders interim head coach Antonio Pierce, which kind of feels like he's probably going to get the head job in Vegas, and then finally Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Now the overwhelming, maybe not overwhelming majority, but the majority of the Titans head coaching candidates now are offensive-minded coaches with a few DCs thrown in there. D-Mase, before we get into anything else, any of those names stand out to you?
I think Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson, those two guys, if you look at the offense of those particular teams, both those particular teams, they're high-powered offenses. If you look at Bobby Slowick and just him in general, the development of their young quarterback, C.J. Stroud, I'm sure he had a hand in that. So you look at him and think, okay, we have sort of the same scenario here. A young quarterback we're trying to develop, and we're trying to see if this guy is our future quarterback, is our franchise quarterback. So why not bring in a Bobby Slowick that's in Houston that, he spent the whole year developing a very talented C.J. Stroud. And now you look at C.J. Stroud, and he's one of the best quarterbacks, regardless of his age. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. So I think he would be the guy at the top of the list. And then obviously Ben Johnson, what he was able to do, or what he's able to do now in Detroit with Jared Goff and that high-powered offense. So those two guys, to me, are my top candidates because, again, you go with the offensive-minded head coach because if this offense flourish in the next 2 years, then the offensive coordinator will be gone. But if you have the offensive-minded head coach, then he's going to remain.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think those two absolutely stand out, and I think those two are probably some of the more highly coveted head coaching candidates out there. I think Vrabel's going to be on that list. Jim Harbaugh is on that list, absolutely. But in terms of like the young, hot coordinators, like the new kids on the block, those are absolutely at the top of the list. And I mean, you look at what Ben Johnson has been able to do with players that we are familiar with that didn't do very much with the Tennessee Titans. Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond. I mean, those two had breakouts in Detroit that they just simply did not have here. So the ability to get the most out of players and also the ability to get production out of players that might not be the focal point of your offense. I mean, the Titans are even struggling to get production out of the focal points of their offenses. You're looking at Traylon Burks, but being able to get production from the top to maybe the bottom of the depth chart, I think, is key there. And what stands out to me about Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick is an interesting one, and Bobby Slowick is probably a clear connection with Rand Carthon. Of course, Bobby Slowick spent time with the San Francisco 49ers when Rand Carthon was in San Francisco. So you have that relationship there. You have Bobby Slowick, who is, coming off of the Kyle Shanahan tree. When we talk about some of the most successful offensive coaches, you would be remiss if you didn't mention Kyle Shanahan. So I think that Bobby Slowick is a really, really interesting one. But a little hitch that could potentially have been thrown in the Titans' pursuit of Bobby Slowick. One, first of all,
Hmm.
the rest of the league is going to be interested in Bobby Slowick. He's had several requests for interviews across the NFL with vacancies at the head coaching position. But the Commanders have just hired the 49ers assistant GM Adam Peters as their new general manager. So Adam Peters also has that relationship with Bobby Slowick as well. So I would think that if I was Adam
Hmm.
Peters and I have that relationship with Bobby Slowick, and we've all seen, the body of work that Bobby Slowick has shown us with the Texans this past year, essentially going worst to first in the division, that might be the first call that Adam Peters makes.
Yeah, it could be, but also another name you need to think about is Todd Monken. I know he's only a first year
Mm,
offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens, coming from the college ranks, but what he was able to do with that offense, put Lamar Jackson back, in the
yeah.
MVP race. They become more multiple. They run the football, they throw the football, they keep you off balance. So Todd Monken could be another name that is thrown into the mix. Now, again, I know he's been there 1 year. You want to see, possibly another year what he does with that offense, but you can't tell me what Baltimore was last year and what they are this year isn't a direct, fact. It is Todd Monken isn't a direct factor of that because this offense, they were at a standstill. DeMar Jackson wasn't growing as quickly as a player and as a passer. But then you throw Todd Monken in there, and this offense takes off. Lamar Jackson, we all assume will win the MVP this year. So I think you got to tilt your hat off to Todd Monken and what he's been able to do there in Baltimore.
That's an interesting one. Not currently on the list of interview requests that the Titans have submitted. But that is an interesting
Yeah.
one because Todd Monken came to the Baltimore Ravens from Georgia. He won
Hmm.
that to the 2021 and 2022 national championships with Georgia. Turned Stetson Bennett from a JUCO quarterback to a back-to-back national champion. But also Todd Monken has a long history of being in the NFL before he was at Georgia. And I guess
Exactly.
that
He was at the
that would have
Bucks.
been yes, yeah, that would have been my concern is has he done enough at this level and proven enough at this level to now be in contention for a head coach?
Well, we'll see. There are a lot of good candidates out there, but like you said, when you look at Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson, I'm sure they're going to be at the top of everybody's list
Oh
in
yeah.
regards to hiring head coaches. So there may be a dark horse in here. Monken may be the dark horse. Eric Bieniemy may be the dark horse. We don't know, but if you want to maintain sort of that continuity as far as offense, then I think you may need to go with an offensive-minded head coach. So if anything
Mm-hmm.
does change in the next 2 years in regards to your coordinators, that style of play, that system will still be in play for your young quarterback.
A couple of names that I think are very interesting. Brian Callahan. He's the offensive coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, when I first saw that the Titans have requested to interview Brian Callahan, my initial thought was, well, is the Bengals' offensive success due to Brian Callahan and what he does for that offense? Or is the Bengals' offensive success due to Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase? Because I've seen it before where Joe Burrow is essentially the head coach and the offensive coordinator of a team, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily due to the success of the offensive coordinator. So that was maybe a thought that I had. But then I also have to remember, D-Mase, Jake
Mm-hmm.
Browning. Jake Browning's looked pretty good since Joe
Exactly, and
Burrow
that's what I
went
was
down
going
with
to
that
say.
hand
He
injury.
had
Yeah.
to coach Jake Browning.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
So and
That's
excuse me, TD was on with Robbie and Rexford this morning. Was on with Jared yesterday for the TD Power Hour. Of course, we're excited to have TD back in the ranks here. He mentioned that Brian Callahan would be his pick. That of all of these candidates, that is, and I don't want to take words out of TD's mouth, but the vibe that I got was Brian Callahan was his favorite of this list.
I mean, I wouldn't, oppose it. This is the
Mm-hmm.
guy, like you said, he didn't get an opportunity to coach Joe Burrow during that season because he went down very early. But what he's been able to do with Jake Browning and that offense, with the injuries that they had, you got to remember Jamar
Mm-hmm.
Chase was injured for a portion of the season. I
Mm-hmm.
think T. Higgins may have been out for the portion of the season. But this team continued to put up numbers as far as an offensive unit. So you got to seriously look at what he's been able to do with a shorthanded offense. He's been able to keep this team. They missed the playoffs. We know that. But he kept this team and his offense, as one of the top offenses in the National Football League. So you really got to take that into account. And then he's in the conference. He's in AFC. He knows the opponents and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he scouted against your team. So he may know some of the weaknesses and strengths of your team. So hiring a guy like Brian Callahan, I mean, again, I wouldn't say no
Mm-hmm.
because, again, he's an offensive-minded coach. And when you have an offensive-minded head coach, no matter who changes offensively from an offensive coordinator standpoint, that system will still be in place.
And then finally, one name that's really intriguing to me is Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, because I don't think that Daniel Jones is really is a playoff caliber quarterback. But he was able to help Daniel Jones elevate to the point where the Giants were one of the most intriguing teams in the National Football League last year. Ended up making the playoffs last year. And he's working with Danny DeVito this past year. But honestly, Danny DeVito did a whole lot more than I ever expected Danny DeVito to do. I don't really know how many expectations I really had for Danny DeVito. So what he was able to do with those two quarterbacks that I don't really deem as starting NFL quarterbacks in this league. But the other thing about Mike Kafka that I think is really, really interesting. I go back to Rand Carthon's introductory press conference last season, asked about running the football, Derrick Henry, so on and so forth. And Rand Carthon, being a former running back himself, emphasized the importance of running the football, that he, quote unquote, didn't want to play Golden State Warriors football, which Golden State Warriors football does seem to win in the National Football League, but he
Mm-hmm.
emphasized the importance of having that run game. What Mike Kafka was able to do with Saquon Barkley last year, I think, was really impressive. That I kind of wrote off Saquon Barkley before last season. I said, he's always hurt, doesn't really do much. It's not, Saquon's best days are behind him. We saw it firsthand when the Titans played the Giants last season, and when Saquon just ran all over them. He kind of had a career resurrection. So I think that if the Titans still want to, which I think Rand Carthon does, have not be a run first team, not run punt every single game, but still have that element of a run game, which I think, when the threat of play action exists, that's when this passing game really develops at its best. You want that threat of a run game. Having an offensive coordinator that has a proven track record with a running back like Saquon Barkley in the run game that the Giants had last season, I think is an intriguing element to it as well.
Yeah, it is. This team is always you always got to be able to run the football in this league, whether it be, giving it to Derrick Henry 300 times a year or, splitting the time, splitting the carries between two
Mm-hmm.
backs. You have to be able to run the football. We saw the Buffalo Bills, their inability to run the football at the beginning of the season really hurt them. And then they got that running game started going, and now they're one of the hottest teams in the National Football League. And many believe that the Buffalo Bills will go on a run in the postseason because they have developed somewhat of a running game. So whoever they hire, if you hire Kafka, he's, his thought is, if I got a good back, I'm going to run that good back, but not
Yeah.
also just run him. use them in multiple ways. Because Saquon Barkley he's a diverse back. He's a multiple back. He can catch the
Hmm.
ball out the backfield, run the ball between the tackles. So if you can have a guy like that, which I believe we do in Tajay Spears, whether they
Hmm.
bring Derrick Henry back or not, I
Yeah.
think they have that type of back that if Kafka comes in, he can use him in that way that he used Saquon Barkley last season in New York.
That's a good point. Is kind of developing and evolving how you use the running back. Derrick Henry's not a pass catching
Exactly.
running back. We know that. Whenever I watch Derrick Henry catch a pass, it always makes me cringe a little bit. Also, as the text line points out, I did call the Giants quarterback Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito very much so is the actor. His name is Tommy DeVito. I do that all
Yes,
the
his
time.
name is right.
His name is Tommy DeVito. Um,
Bit of a height difference too.
a bit of a height difference. Yes,
Yeah, I'm
both
sure.
Italian.
There's a couple of inches between the two of
Yeah,
them.
a bit of an age difference there too. So my bad. I did mean Tommy DeVito. So that is the list of interviews that the Titans have submitted, requests that they've submitted. Again, Eagles OC Brian Johnson, Texans OC Bobby Slowick, Bengals OC Brian Callahan, Lions OC Ben Johnson, Ravens DC Mike McDonald, Giants OC Mike Kafka, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Raiders interim head coach Antonio Pierce, and Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Another name that D-Mase throws out there is Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Now, those are coaches that are potentially in play. But what about
Hmm.
coaches that aren't in play? It's been reported by several different national sources that the Titans are not pursuing Jim Harbaugh nor Bill Belichick. Now, before we get into that, D-Maze, initial reactions, do you agree with that decision? Do you not agree with that decision to not pursue Harbaugh or Belichick?
Um, Belichick, yes, I understand because I think you were sort of getting away from that when you chose to part ways with Mike Vrabel.
Mm-hmm.
Jim may be a different story. He has shown whatever he's doing as far as coaching, it's working at all levels. It worked at San Diego State, it worked at Stanford, it worked in San Francisco, it's working at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever this guy goes, and it's hard for me to say because he's a Michigan guy,
Yeah.
but the truth remains, he's a damn good coach. Now, if you hire him, does he want complete power? That's the thing.
Yeah.
When you hire a guy with such a big personality and has had so much success, what are they going to want in regards to taking a job? Are they just going to want to be the head coach? Are they going to want to be the head coach slash quasi GM? You can't have that because it seemed like that's what you was running into this go around with Mike Vrabel.
Right.
But again, I wouldn't, you know, Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, no. Jim Harbaugh, I would have kicked the tires on that one, but maybe he's too big of a personality for this organization at this time.
You at least pick up the phone. It doesn't.
Yeah, I,
It
I
doesn't hurt
think you should.
anything to pick up the phone. But I think it provides clarity. The athletic article that Joe Rex wrote and Diana Rossini put out yesterday, which if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic work by both Joe and Diana. That Mike Vrabel reportedly wanted full control over the team, and Amy Adams Strunk said, "No, you're not. You're not getting full control over the team." Amy Adams Strunk's philosophy is that whenever the coach has hands on too many things, it doesn't work out. So Jim Harbaugh would be the kind of coach that I think would want more team control, more organizational control. That Jim Harbaugh would play more so that quasi GM and coach role. So if that's not what Amy Adams Strunk wants, that she doesn't want a head coach with his hands all over everything, that would make sense. That Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh would not be in contention for this role. That they maybe want a coach that just wants to coach, that wants to truly collaborate with the general manager, to use the C word yet again. But but now I look back and I say, well, why didn't Amy Adams Strunk maybe come out and her sit down with Mike Keith and be a little bit more forthright about who would have final say? Again, this was Amy Adams Strunk and her sit down with Mike Keith earlier this week. So she wasn't willing to say the day that Mike Vrabel was fired, maybe this was the day after, who would have final say. But she doesn't want a head coach that wants full control. Now, I understand that full control and final say are two different things, but
Hmm.
there's a disconnect there. Of we had to, part of the reason why we wanted to move on from Mike Vrabel was he wasn't willing to collaborate and wanted full control. Yet we're not willing to come out and say definitively today who would have final say over roster decisions. I'm a little bit confused about that, D-Mase.
Yeah, I am as well. Are you going to give the offensive coordinator, you know, what I mean, the GM, autonomy to be the GM, or
Yeah.
does he have to split it between the head coach? I think that's a decision that, and whether she, you know, has she spoke to Rand about this since firing Mike Vrabel or moving on from Mike Vrabel. That seems to be a real, and you tell me, Caroline, that seems to be like a weird place to be in as the GM. You don't know if you have the total power or if you just have like the title of being GM.
Yes.
That doesn't make for a relaxed situation to me, as far as being a GM, because you don't know right now whether she's going to give you, the authority to be the GM or you just going to have the title.
That's what I'm confused about. That I look at it and I wonder, so what exactly is Rand Carthon's job? If a coach will
Mhm.
come in here and have final say, well, then what does Rand Carthon do? What is Rand Carthon in charge of? And if I'm Rand Carthon, I'm looking at it and saying, can you just can I do my job? Can you let me have the organizational control to do what you hired me to do?
Yeah, you will want to. And, but she said eventually she will let everybody know. I guess it depends on, you know, what candidates she can get into the office,
Yeah.
like serious candidates and what they're looking for. Because I'm sure if you hire, anyone outside of, say, a Jim Harbaugh or Bill Belichick, these guys are not going to want to come in and
Right.
have, total power as far as being a head coach and a GM. I think these young guys want to come in and say, listen, let me just be the head coach
Right.
and let me evaluate the talent on the field and let the GM do his job, and assist the GM and the scouts. Let them do their job and we'll all talk about it. But I think that'd be too much to put on a young head coach.
And you don't have the qualifications. If you were an offensive
Exactly.
coordinator in the league, do you have the qualifications to now all of a sudden be a head coach and also a general manager that has final say in the National Football League? It doesn't make a whole
Probably
lot of
not.
sense to me. No,
It
no.
doesn't.
We'll get back into this conversation, but coming up next, Michelle Kennedy, Predators team president, will join us. We are live from the beautiful BetMGM Sports Lounge. So come out here, grab some food, grab some drinks, watch some games, and place some bets. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, the game.
Happy Friday, everyone. This time of year, we reflect on the past and make plans for the year ahead. If you made a resolution to lose weight this year and you diet and exercise but still struggle to lose the pounds, it could be that your hormones are imbalanced, okay? So call my friends at Cool Springs MD. Their experienced doctors specialize in identifying which of your hormones need to be balanced and provide a tailored solution designed just for you. Imbalanced hormones can also cause more problems than just weight loss. You may experience mood swings, fatigue, and decreased sex drive. Hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, can help. Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his team understands its frustrating cycle and want to help you be the best you can be this year. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle, people. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number: 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit their website at coolspringsmd.com. Don't let imbalances, hormones hinder your resolution. Give Cool Springs MD a call today to take control of your health with HRT at Cool Springs MD.
And Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are at Bridgestone Arena, but the Predators are not. The Predators away tonight, taking on the Dallas Stars in Dallas. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. We'll have all your pregame coverage here on 1025 and 1063, The Game, starting right at 6 p.m. We are at the BetMGM Sports Lounge. It is brand new and it is beautiful. And joining us to brag about the new BetMGM Sports Lounge is Predators President Michelle Kennedy. Michelle, appreciate you for joining us. This space is awesome. What was your vision for this space, and what do you want Predators fans and people in Nashville to come in here and utilize this space for?
Yeah, it is awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Yes.
I hope that you
Happy to be here.
agree that there are a lot worse places you could spend your day than in this beautiful new venue.
Absolutely.
So our vision was making it more than just an event and game night forum. It is something now that's open every day, 11 to 11.
Yeah.
and it's awesome. It is just come in. I can't really describe it. You have to come in here to see it. But there are TVs everywhere. The ambiance is incredible. Today's not the day for it, but it has a whole bay of windows that will open to Fifth Avenue. It is just an incredible space. We've had a fun week. Soft opening was Monday. We had our first game on Tuesday, and the place looked awesome. And people who have been so eager to get back in here, people have their game rituals.
Right.
And a lot of folks' rituals involve the space. And so I can't tell you how many phone calls, emails, texts, tweets I've gotten asking about when the space is reopening. And so it was like a homecoming on Tuesday night here. It was absolutely incredible. We had a VIP reception last night with MGM, the naming rights partner in the space. And it's just been a fun week. I can be a great menu resource. I've eaten nearly everything on the menu. I've been here every day this week.
Menu favorite so far?
Okay, so here are the things you have to try. The biscuits are better than you will get anywhere in the city. I stand by that. Biscuits are incredible, and they're woven into a lot of different dishes. The dish that you should try first that they are woven into is a hanging bacon dish.
Ooh.
So the presentation is that it looks like there are things that they're food safe, but they look like binder clips, like cool binder clips. And the bacon is attached to it, hanging down, and then there are biscuits below it. It's unbelievable.
Made me hungry. Make all of our listeners start salivating a little bit.
Hanging bacon, and then the mussels are excellent.
Wow.
And
Diverse menu.
So come down here, try the place out. You're going to love it. There are TVs everywhere. You'll be entertained by what's going on around you, and you'll be awed by the space. It's a great space.
It is a beautiful brand new space. Again, it's the BetMGM Sports Lounge here at Bridgestone Arena. And just to clarify, this space is open even not on a Predators game day.
That's right. It's open not on a Predators game day. And when it is a Predators game day, we hope you have a ticket. But if you don't have a ticket, you can still come in here and have a meal while the game is going on outside. So you can get a taste of the Bridgestone Arena atmosphere while you have dinner or drinks or whatever you're doing. Another important thing to note is that Pete and Terry's is a beloved part of our organization and venue as well. That remains open on event days and on special days in Nashville. So those of you who spend your pre-games and intermissions and different things in Pete and Terry's, do not fear that venue. It is not being eradicated because of the BetMGM Sports Lounge.
We do love our friends over there at Pete and Terry's.
Yes.
Michelle Kennedy is with us, Predators team president. So it is crazy to me over the last 3 years, maybe even 5 years, how we in sports have gone from it's very taboo to talk about sports betting. You don't talk about the lines or the spreads or the favorite. Now here we are. There's a sports book in the arena in which the Predators play. What has that experience been like from your side of things to fully embrace the sports betting side of things?
Yeah, for us it becomes, and so, Tennessee's not a bricks and mortar betting state, but MGM exponentially, because now you can, and people love the sport of it, right? They love engaging in that. And so now you have skin in the game. It's more than just coming and watching them play. You're betting on how many minutes Roman Yossi's going to be on the ice or any number of things that you can bet on. And so for us, the real draw and the real benefit is the increase in engagement. And as well, obviously it opens some doors for some new partnerships with BetMGM and the like. So it's been a really great thing for us. I'm glad that our state has gotten on board with it because it really does enhance the experience in a number of ways.
Do we have Derek? We may not have Derek.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there we
I'm
go.
here. No. Yes, I'm sorry. I have my mute down. We're talking with Michelle Kennedy. Now, how easy is it for individuals to come in and make bets? Because I know some people, they may be first-time bettors. They're coming in and may get a little bit intimidated by coming in. The food's going to be great, but not just the food, but the betting atmosphere.
Yeah.
So how easy is it for them to sort of come in, sit down, eat, and make their bets?
Just download the BetMGM app. And even I am not someone who is a big gambler, but even someone as uneducated and unskilled as I am can do that. So download the BetMGM app. if you come in here, I imagine that every wait staff member is going to direct you to that and be trained to do that too. But it's a fun. The beauty of being in here is that there are, I can't even count the number of TVs. Whatever you're betting on, you can watch it happen in here and gauge your progress as it goes. So this is intended to be a place of community, of sport community, and if you come in here and see it, you see that we have absolutely hit the mark. It's a great place to come and consume some sporting action.
Michelle Kennedy is with us. Last one from me, Michelle. You start 2024 off opening this beautiful space, a great new place for the people of Nashville to come hang out, enjoy sporting events, to eat and drink. What are the next steps, the next goals to achieve in 2024?
We are in a constant state of renovation.
Mm-hmm.
You will begin to hear us talk as the year goes on about a grand scale renovation that will happen here in the next few years. But in the interim, we're a little bit like, what does Taylor Swift call it when she teases things? Easter eggs. She puts
Yep.
Easter eggs all over the place. We like to do the same. We
Uh-huh.
like for everyone to come in and try to find the new thing each time. And we are a 25-year-old building, celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, actually, a little more than a 25-year-old building. But we never want to look like that. And so it is absolutely essential for us to be on top of our game and to always be doing new and different and fun things. You're going to begin to hear some talk about a new loyalty platform that we're so excited about that will enhance the experience of our season ticket holders. I'm not going to give you any more than Taylor Swift would in the same context, but keep listening. You're going to hear loyal is going to be something that's going to resonate with that platform. So just keep your eyes and ears open, because there's some really cool, exciting, fun things coming.
She really is the best at baiting the hook and giving you
Right?
just enough.
We can all learn a little bit from Taylor.
Absolutely, we can. Michelle Kennedy, really appreciate you for stopping by, and thank you so much for having us in this beautiful space today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Derek. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you at BetMGM soon.
Preds win tonight?
Absolutely.
I think so too.
No
I think so
question.
too.
Bounce it
Michelle,
back.
appreciate it. All right, coming up next, there is a new head coach in New England, not named Mike Vrabel. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We are live out here at BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. This is a brand new space, and it is beautiful. It's where the old Patron Club used to be at Bridgestone Arena, but it is completely updated. It is beautiful. The space is massive. They've got more TVs than I can count. They've got great food. They've got a full bar, so come out here to the BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. You do not have to wait for a game day. You can come out. It's open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and you can even come here and hang out on a Predators game day, even if you don't have a ticket. So it's a great space. Appreciate Michelle Kennedy, Predators president, for joining us in the last segment. She said, get the hanging bacon. So I might have to get into that after our show is wrapped up. But we have a new head coach in New England. It is not Mike Vrabel. I do want to get into that. But D-Mase first, a little bit of a deja vu all over again. Apparently A.J. Brown's deleted all Philadelphia Eagles-related content on his Instagram.
Oh my goodness! Is it that time of year?
It's not even that time of year. We're in the playoffs.
Oh my goodness! Maybe you know what? I mean, I don't know why these players do some of the things that they do nowadays. I mean, removing them from your social media, what does that mean? I mean, they still have you under contract. You're still gonna play this weekend. I don't. Maybe you're just doing it because you want to sort of get off social media and concentrate on the playoffs. But if that's indeed the case, just deactivate your account, concentrate on the playoffs, and try to put your team in the best position to make it to the Super Bowl. But again, man, I don't understand these young kids nowadays. I sound old. I'm not old, but these kids, I just don't understand them. Maybe you can tell me why he chose to do that once again, Caroline, because I do not know.
D-Mase, AJ and I are the same age, and I don't get it. So maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm old for my age, but I simply do not understand it. And, you know, let's go back to the Jeffrey Simmons saga of his contract, and he deleted everything, all Titan stuff off of his Instagram. He was going through a contract dispute. The Eagles apparently gave AJ everything that he wanted. He got the money. He got the targets. Now everything coming out of Philadelphia is that AJ's been nothing but a nuisance in the locker room, that he's been so outspoken about how unhappy he is with the coaching staff. Now here you are. It's Friday. Do the Eagles play tomorrow or Sunday? Either way, you're 24 to 48 hours away from playing in a playoff game, and now the number one story out of Philadelphia is AJ's Instagram. I don't get it. I don't think I will ever understand it. Like, focus on the game, AJ. Don't be worrying about your Instagram. Don't be worrying about whatever personal vendettas you might have against this coaching staff.
I don't get it. What does it accomplish? Again, you're still under contract. To me, it just shows the immaturity. Because you understand, as you start to get older in this league, it's a business. Things are not going to, you're not going to get along with everybody else, everybody on the team. You may not even get along with the head coach, hell. But you are there to do a job. And you scrubbing your Instagram of the team, I mean, again, what does that do? It does nothing, because the fact remains you still are a Philadelphia Eagle, and you're causing more harm than you are not by doing this. It's another distraction. You already have distractions within that organization with your quarterback being hurt all season, him not playing well, offense not doing as well, and then you want to add this on as you're headed into the playoffs. It's not a good look.
Not a good look. AJ gonna AJ. But all right, let's get into this, because the news of the morning, I wake up yesterday morning, I see Bill Belichick is fired. I wake up this morning, I see that Gerard Mayo has been hired as the next head coach for the New England Patriots. I don't know what's going to happen when I wake up tomorrow morning, maybe even more of a news dump, but the New England Patriots have worked fast. But after all of that, D-Mase, after all of that, of the months of the Mike Vrabel to New England propaganda, after the Ben Volen report in the Boston Globe saying Robert Kraft's home run hire would be Mike Vrabel, after Greg Bedard's report, article, whatever you want to call it, that he put out about the connection between Mike Vrabel and New England. Mike Vrabel going to New England to accept his admission to the Patriots Hall of Fame. Enjoy this. It's not like this everywhere. After all of that, what felt like the very public flirting between New England and Mike Vrabel, after all of that, 24 hours is all it took for New England to name Gerard Mayo the head coach. Diana Rossini tweeted earlier this morning, the New England Patriots never reached out to a single person, including the hot names like Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, or even Ben Johnson, per sources. They made their decision less than a day after firing Belichick with a plan in place. They had a plan in place? They didn't even call Mike Vrabel after all of that?
Hey, the joke's on you. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's like, everyone thought that it was just a foregone conclusion that Mike Vrabel gets fired, then the next landing spot would just ultimately be. It was just like nobody really, he's going to New England. Look at what happened, during the season. He went up to New England, got enshrined into the Hall of Fame, and then subsequently these stories start to come out about him being the homegrown hire. Well, I guess just like Gino said, they called, I didn't ask, I didn't call back, and something like that.
They wrote me off, I didn't write back.
Off and I didn't write back. Well, Gerard Mayo was saying the same thing. Y'all all wrote me off when, in actuality, there was a contingency plan within my contract that if Bill Belichick does retire, I will segue into being a head coach. You got to remember, the story is that Bill Belichick asked Gerard Mayo to come back to that coaching staff. They were grooming him to be the next coach of the New England Patriots. I don't know how Mike Vrabel name got thrown in there, other than him winning 3 Super Bowls there, and him being a hot commodity here, and what he was doing in Nashville as far as winning wise. But all the while, the owner Kraft, Bill Belichick, they already set the thing in place. They already set the thing, the wheels in motion in regards to Gerard Mayo getting the coaching job. I believe it was in his contract that once Bill left, he would be his successor. So, Gerard Mayo was like, hey, listen, joke's on y'all. I knew I was going to be the head coach. It was just a matter of time. When was Bill Belichick going to step aside, or when will they mutually part ways? Because the minute they mutually parted ways, I was in line to be the next head coach. And it didn't take 48 hours for them to name Gerard Mayo the next head coach of the New England Patriots. And, good for him, good for that organization. Now Mike has I'm sure Mike could get another job. There are several other teams out there that need head coaches. But everybody just, as soon as things started to, get a little hairy here in Nashville, everybody sort of wrote, Vrabel to New England was just a no-brainer. Well, it wasn't that way.
Well, you say, where did this idea of Vrabel to New England come from? It came out of New England. I mean, like I said, the Ben Volen report in the Boston Globe. And I understand Greg Bedard's reporting feels a little bit diluted after we heard him on with Jared on his show about a month or so ago, asking about, where did you hear about this relationship between Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, so on and so forth. But there were a lot of people in New England, reliable sources in New England, who were telling us, hey, Mike Vrabel to the Patriots. So that's where it came from. I don't think this was just some conspiracy that was cooked up by the people of Nashville, or it was just an assumption that Mike Vrabel would be in consideration for the head coaching job because he played in New England. No, New England was telling us that he would be a candidate. But you bring up Gerard Mayo's contract. Ian Rappaport put this out. Says Gerard Mayo is a strong candidate to replace Bill Belichick, and of course this was put out before he was named as the head coach. It says no need to go through the lengthy hiring process. They established a firm contractual succession plan in a prior contract and communicated it to the NFL. I don't think that necessarily means once Bill was fired or retired that Gerard Mayo was, the sure 100% had to be the next head coach contractually agreed to. I just think the Patriots put that in his contract so that if they wanted him to be the next head coach, they wouldn't have to go through the lengthy hiring process. I find it very hard to believe that the Patriots would pigeonhole themselves into their next head coach beforehand. They would be contractually obligated to hire one specific head coach because anything can happen. I mean, look at the head
Well,
coaches that are on the market.
I understand that, but if you know this guy is going to be your next guy, then you can put that in the contract. If you believe in your heart that this will be the next guy that is going to succeed Bill Belichick, then you're going to put it in your contract, and you're not going to worry about, whether he goes to another team or not. You put this within your contract because you believe wholeheartedly that this is the individual that can lead our franchise to more Super Bowls. And obviously, that's what Kraft thought, and that's what he believed. And subsequently, you put it in his contract, and then you hire him less than 48 hours later. That means in the back of your mind, you knew that he was going to be Bill's successor. You wasn't looking outside for a Mike Vrabel or anyone else. You felt that he had the pulse of that locker room. He knew those guys. Those guys loved him, and he showed that he could be leader. That he could be a leader of men. So you hire him. So I just don't see. They must didn't get Robert Kraft on the right day, because I know it came out that Mike Vrabel would be his home run hire, but you say if that is indeed true, he could be your home run hire, but then you less than 48 hours after moving away from arguably the greatest coach in NFL history, you already have in place your head coach. That tells me you thought about this for a very long time.
And I think that has felt obvious that Gerard Mayo was the head coach in waiting. But why come out and say Mike Vrabel would be our home run hire and then not even pick up the phone and call him, assuming Diana Rossini's report is true? Now, it might not be. The Patriots may have called Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel may have said no. I don't know. But in November, this was, I guess, about 3 months ago, 2 months ago, it was reported that Mike Vrabel would be Robert Kraft's home run hire. Mike Vrabel's available for the taking. You don't even have to trade for him, and you don't even call him?
That's because you probably in your mind, you had your successor already in place. There was no need to go outside of, the building. You had the guy that you believe, that you trust, that was going to lead this franchise into, winning more Super Bowls. So, listen, I don't know why, that came out in regards to, Mike Vrabel being the home run hire. I don't know why it came out, but it does seem like that they thought about this for a very long time. So much so that they put it in, they set up this contract even before, Bill decided that, that they decided mutually they would part ways. So to me, they already had in their mind who their next guy was going to be, regardless of who got fired and who didn't. They knew they had their guy in house. And the minute that Bill stepped away, Gerard Mayo was going to be the guy.
I just find it very odd because you don't know how that got out. I tend to believe that things don't get out really unless you want them to get out. So if Robert Kraft or someone within the Patriots facility, a high-ranking official in the Patriots facility, said that they wanted, or that Mike Vrabel would be their home run hire, they wanted that to get out. So it's something, the math ain't math in there. Something's not connecting there. But Joe Rexrode had a very interesting conspiracy theory, and I was very proud of Joe putting on his tinfoil hat this morning and deep diving into the pool of conspiracies. This was his thought on potentially how we could have gone from 2 months ago, Mike Vrabel's your home run hire. Now, Gerard Mayo's the head coach. You didn't even pick up the phone and call Mike Vrabel when he was available. This was Joe Rexrode this morning.
So since this is all one big freaking soap opera, it's our soap opera,
Yep.
The NFL. I'm just going to throw a wild speculation out there for you, and you just do with it what you will.
Okay.
I think Jonathan Kraft wanted Vrabel to be the coach and not Gerard Mayo. and his dad wanted Gerard Mayo, and Jonathan Kraft tried to use the media to make it not happen.
I like that. I could see that.
I mean, hey, it's just me throwing stuff at the wall.
Ooh, okay. What do we think about that? That Robert Kraft put that in Gerard Mayo's contract, that he wanted Gerard Mayo as the next head coach, but Jonathan Kraft, Robert Kraft's son, who was the president of the New England Patriots, was kind of going behind his dad's back and using the media to drum up interest for Mike Vrabel because Jonathan Kraft wanted Mike Vrabel. What do we make of Joe's theory?
Hey, listen, I'm all about the tinfoil hats. You know that. So
This is a pro tinfoil hat program.
exactly, we're all about that. So I'm sure that could be a possibility. And once that got out, Robert Kraft was like, listen, this is the guy that I want in place. Y'all can put out whatever y'all want to put out. Y'all can put out that, he is the home run hire. He may have been my son's home run hire, but he's not my home run hire. My hire, the guy that's going to succeed Bill Belichick, is the guy that's already in house, and that's Gerard Mayo. So kudos to Gerard Mayo. But then again, I'm with Joe. I mean, hey, I like the conspiracy theories. I like the soap opera. It sounds good. It makes for more tantalizing radio to think that the owner wanted one thing, and then the son tried to circumvent that and put this name out because he wants another guy. But then ultimately, the owner of the team made the decision to go with the guy that he believes is the best guy for this team, and that's Gerard Mayo.
I think one of two things has to be true. One, either Ben Volen's report was true and was from Robert Kraft, and Robert Kraft meant it wholeheartedly, that Mike Vrabel was his home run hire. And that when Robert Kraft decided to part ways with Bill Belichick, he picked up the phone and called Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel wasn't interested. Whether this was before Mike Vrabel got fired or after Mike Vrabel got fired, whatever it might be, that Mike Vrabel was not interested and did not want the New England job. That's one side of things. And maybe that, and I don't know how Mike Vrabel feels. We've seen a few reports coming out here and there of maybe Mike Vrabel wants to take a year off from coaching. That the past couple of years with the Titans have taken a big toll on him. That he just wants a year just to chill. And maybe that's the truth. I don't know. I don't know what Mike Vrabel wants. I think that's one thing. One possibility here. I think the other possibility, I think Joe could be onto something. That there was a disagreement within the Patriots organization. That somebody with power in the Patriots organization, somebody that was a good enough source for the Boston Globe to run with that, said that we want Mike Vrabel. And that there was a disagreement between that person and Robert Kraft, or that person and ownership. And ownership wanted Gerard Mayo. And ultimately, let's assume it was Robert Kraft here. Let's just, in this example, say it was Robert Kraft. That Robert Kraft won. That Robert Kraft got his guy. That there was some sort of miscommunication or disagreement behind closed doors with the New England Patriots. Somebody wanted Vrabel, and somebody didn't.
Well, I'm sure there is somebody because, listen, that story that story wouldn't have came out if it wasn't, if there wasn't some truth to it. That potentially Mike could be the predecessor to Bill Belichick if indeed Bill steps aside. I mean, obviously, we know they mutually parted ways. So I wouldn't, but do you want to go into an organization that is sort of accustomed to doing things that way, where one guy's talking, then another guy goes behind your back and try to undermine you and puts out another talking point or whatnot. I can't think that to be a very good place or environment to work in. And maybe had they hired Mike Vrabel, it would have been, that would have been the Suns guy, and they would have worked well because he was the president. But in this situation, the owner has say. Gerard Mayo has been there his whole career, not just playing career, but his coaching career. They asked him to be on that staff, and they wanted to reward him because they felt he was the best guy for the job. Now, again, how the story came out about Vrabel being the home run hire, Who told him? I don't know. I tend to probably sort of lean toward what Joe is saying. Maybe his son wanted it and he put it out there. But the owner, that's not what he wanted. And ultimately, obviously, the owner got what he wanted because that's his team. And Gerard Mayo is the next head coach of the New England Patriots.
It could be too that somebody put that out there because they wanted it out there. That wasn't ever the truth, and that somebody put that out there. But I don't see the benefit to doing that.
Yeah, me either.
To using the media and saying, yeah, like put the story out there that we think that Mike Vrabel would be a great hire, even if it's not the truth. I don't necessarily see what sort of negotiating benefit that would be. I don't see necessarily that being the case, but
I think it was
interesting.
somebody's truth within that building.
Feels like it had to be, right?
Mhm.
And there was either a miscommunication or a disagreement, and I lean a disagreement within the Patriots organization. But again, the news coming out this morning, Gerard Mayo will serve as the New England Patriots' new head coach. The Titans will begin to conduct head coaching interviews this weekend. Antonio Pierce, the Raiders' interim head coach, will be interviewed by the Titans this weekend, but there is a long list of coaches that the Titans have requested to interview. Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick is on that list. Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan is on that list. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is on that list. Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka is on that list, in addition to several defensive coordinators across the league. All right, coming up next, we'll get into some questions for D-Mase. So get those questions in for Ask D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a question for D-Mase, we'll take your calls, we'll take your texts. Ask D-Mase coming up next. We're live out here at the BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. This place is awesome. This place is really cool. It's in the old Patron Club at Bridgestone Arena, but you don't have to wait for game day. You can come out at any time. It's open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Grab some food, grab some drinks, watch any of these, 10, 15 TVs in this place. It's really, really cool. We'll give away a $50 voucher for the new BetMGM Sports Lounge for the best question for D-Mase, and we'll do that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
D-Mase, get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls and we'll take your texts. The best question for D-Mase will win a $50 voucher for the new BetMGM Sports Lounge restaurant and bar inside Bridgestone Arena. That is where we are today. It is absolutely beautiful. I've heard the hanging bacon is delicious. That's what Michelle Kennedy, Predators president, told us earlier on the show. So best question for D-Mase will get a $50 voucher for the new BetMGM Sports Lounge. Let's get your questions in for D-Mase. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, D-Mase? Or what's up, Nate, rather. Too many D-Mases here.
What's up, Caroline and D-Mase? So with everything that has happened with the Titans, what are the players thinking in the locker room? And how are they thinking about, whether they will be able to succeed with the Titans or not? Because we know how we feel on the outside looking in based on the situations that's been going on, but how are they feeling internally?
Yeah, thanks for your call, Nate.
Thank you. That's a good question. Unfortunately, I went through it once in Baltimore when Brian Billick got fired, and then John Harbaugh ended up replacing him as the head coach, and obviously, the rest is history with him and the Baltimore Raiders. But I think it's the unknown. I think it's the unknown with everybody in the building, not just the players. Who's going to be the next head coach? How are you going to fit into this head coach's system? How do you fit in this head coach's plans moving forward? Especially for, say, like older guys and, those guys that are not quite established yet. How am I going to fit into into what this new head coach is potentially going to want to do moving forward as far as scheme and everything else. So guys are anticipating and are waiting to hear who the next head coach is going to be. But they're just like everybody else. It's just an unknown. And when it's an unknown, people, if you're not an established guy in this league, you tend to be a little bit nervous because you don't know what to expect from the new guy. You don't know if he's going to want you to be a part of the program or not.
Yeah, good question. Cam is on the line with a question for D-Mase. Go ahead, Cam.
Hey, good morning, guys. Did I hear this correctly? D-Mase, was Nick Saban your coach at Michigan State?
Yeah, he was for 2 seasons, my junior and senior year.
Okay. Can you see a difference between Nick Saban then and Nick Saban now?
Yes, obviously there is. Obviously, when we, took the job at Michigan State, which was in 1995, I believe, he was young. I think this was his first big collegiate job. And he had this, he had to come in, he had to set some things straight. This was a program that, we were not successful in previous years. So he had to come in and sort of rebuild this program from the ground up. So, he was a little bit different in regards to his approach, his demeanor. I think as the years went on, he still had the same winning approach. But I think he started to adapt to, the kids of today. He started to, learn how to talk to them, inquire about them, not just on the football field, but off the football field, learning how to care more about these individuals. So I think that's how he has changed over the years. And I think any any good to great coach or player, you're going to evolve as the time does if you want to last in this game for a long time. And obviously, Nick Saban was able to evolve and adapt and win multiple championships, and is regarded as the greatest college coach that we've seen.
That's really, I think, what differentiates Nick Saban from other coaches, or what makes his run even more impressive, is how much college football has changed over the years. I mean, look, he won his first national championship in 2003. He won his last national championship in 2020. College football is night and day different between those two periods, and then of course all the 5 other national championships in between those two. So his adaptability of, he might not like the changes of college football, but he's gonna embrace them, and he's mastered a whole heck of a lot of them. I remember him complaining about the direction of college football with airing the ball out, up-tempo offenses, pass-heavy offenses. And then what does he do? He adapts, wins more national championships. He was, pretty outspoken against NIL, and then embraced NIL, starts talking and bragging about what Bryce Young's $1 million NIL deal, and now, he got Alabama back to the college football playoff this past year. So adaptability with Nick Saban differentiates him from so many others. Success across different eras of college football. Yeah, go ahead, D-Mase.
Even that, Caroline, we've seen other coaches where they've tried to adapt and they tried to be something that they were not. You look at Brian Kelly or some of these other coaches developing accents that they don't have and all this other stuff, trying to be cool in front of the kids. Nick Saban didn't have to do any of that.
I'm sorry, did Brian Kelly not win 10 games in back-to-back seasons in his first 2 years at LSU? Why are we coming for my coach?
I'm just saying, because it's the truth. But
I think the best example of that is Dabo.
Yeah, Dabo. Yeah, exactly. So Nick Saban, he was able to adapt, but he didn't change who he was at the core. You see some of these other coaches start to change who they are, and they may have success early on, but then it sort of fizzles out. That's not Nick Saban.
Eric is on the line with a question for D-Mase. Go ahead, Eric.
Yes, before I get to it, of course, I've got a dad joke, and this one probably is going to be a grown to you. I give it to you. So, what do you get when you combine a nervous javelin thrower with a writer?
I don't know.
Shakespeare.
Not bad, Eric. Not bad.
Yeah, I know. I told you. That's what I heard. I didn't come up with myself, but I heard it. D-Mase, my question is this. Of course, now Brady's gone and everything, but just the last 3 years, here's the thing. We had the number 1 seed, but we led the NFL in injuries. Last year, we had the 7-game losing streak, 7-10, and I believe we led the league again in injuries. And then this past year, while I don't think we led the NFL in injuries, I think we were something like second or third. So the last 3 years, we've either been near the top or at the top with injuries. And just a 2-part question. What do you think with the strength and conditioning? Is there anything they can maybe do differently to prevent some of these injuries? I know some of it's bad luck and some of it's soft tissue. They said supposedly with the grass that was supposed to change. And what did you do as a player in your training and condition to try and help with situation of injuries? Because I think even with the Titans during the run that we had some injuries, but not to that level. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. It's always good to talk to you. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for your call, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. I'm not going to sit here and put it all on the strength and conditioning folks because I'm sure they are good at their job, and I wasn't, and I'm not inside of that weight room with certain plans that they have particular guys on. But it is ironic that over the last 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons, that this team has just been injury prone for whatever reason. You could say they're snake bitten or just a stroke of bad luck. I don't know what it is, but then you see those same guys go to other places and they're relatively healthy throughout the whole year. So you just don't know quite what it is. But I'm sure they will get a whole new weight, strength and conditioning, coach. They may get the next coach coming in may want to change up a whole bunch of things within that building as far as, things that directly affect the players. And one of those things can be the strength and conditioning. As far as me, my first 2 years, and Steve Waterson was great. I mean, he was awesome at being the strength and conditioning coach for the Titans his years here. But after the first couple of years, I know I needed something more tailor made to me and my position and what I do. I ran all the time as receivers. We're always running. So I did a lot of track work. I, stretched, yoga, all this other stuff that guys are now doing. I was doing that stuff back then. And my thing was, I'm not saying, what is being done in the weight room ain't right, because I believe it is, but I needed something tailored toward me. You can give us all the same things, but that doesn't mean it's tailored toward me. So I had to get something more tailored toward me, but I had earned that right to go outside of the building and work with a personal trainer.
And I think that every injury has a different story. Looking at the Titans injuries this year, how many of those injuries were due to guys that had already been injured and re-injured said injuries? Thinking of Christian Fulton. He came injured, he got injured. And how much of it is you're just getting dominated. Like Andre Dillard got injured this past year, and it's because he was just getting worked every single week. How much of it is just weird, kooky, fluky things that happen in the game of football? Like, you get concussed. Will Levis, he had zero protection, and so he got injured because it's football and injuries happen. How much of it is the training staff, the strength and conditioning coaches, and how much is it you just can't bring in the number of injured players that you have the past couple of years? How much of it is you just aren't getting proper protection up front? That's what I would like to kind of break down as well.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of factors into why a team is more injury prone than the next team. Because a lot this year were not soft tissue injuries. We had guys get concussion, guys high ankle sprain, and that has nothing to do with the strength and conditioning coach. That just has everything to do with football being a very physical sport. And then, oh, by the way, our offensive line isn't good, so I'm getting hit more times than not.
All right, right back into your questions for D-Mase coming up next. Again, the number is 615-737-1025 if you have a question for D-Mase. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tune into 93.3 Classic Hits tomorrow for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders are at home facing Sam Houston with pregame beginning at 4:30 p.m. and tip-off at 5 p.m. Coverage also available on the 93.3 Classic app and at 933classichits.com.
Happy Friday, everyone. Listen, I know you're going to be doing some betting this weekend because game starts tomorrow. The NFL playoff starts. So if you're going to be betting, I know you're going to do it with our partners, Zen Sports. And I'm excited to tell you about their new introductory promotion available to all new customers in Tennessee, the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for the Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched a new VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, then listen up. The VIP program is by invite only, people. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, bettors? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today before the playoffs start tomorrow. Zen Sports, betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Ask D-Mase. Get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your calls. We'll take your texts. We'll take all of your questions for D-Mase. And the best question for D-Mase will win a $50 voucher for the new BetMGM Sports Lounge restaurant and bar inside Bridgestone Arena. That is where we are at today. BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. This place is an absolute blast. They've got food, they've got drinks, they've got TV, so come hang out here on a game day or not. But we'll get right back into your questions for D-Mase. Matthew in Nashville texts in, says 1 year ago, if somebody told you in the first month of 2024, not only Pete Carroll and Bill Birdie, what would you have said?
Oh man, I'd have said, man, the sports world is coming to an end as we speak. You have arguably we don't even have to argue about it. You have the greatest college coach ever and the greatest NFL coach ever. And then a coach that has only other, 3 coaches have done what he has done. And that's to win a national championship as well as a Super Bowl, and Pete Carroll. And you're talking about 3 guys that are different. 2 of them are more alike than the third, but 3 guys that are different, but they all found a way to adapt to the changing times, and not only adapt but also win.
And I think that it's crazy too that I consider 2 of the best coaches in the sport, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, in the span of 12, 14 hours. They both are away from the places that they've been for so long. It's like my childhood of football, of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, no longer where they're supposed to be. Another texter texts in, says, what's the best advice that you've gotten from Nick Saban?
Oh my goodness. It's so long ago. I can't remember that.
Must not been too great of advice.
I mean, no, it was.
I'm kidding.
Nick's thing was just be responsible and do the things that are asked of you. That's what his main thing was. We ask you to do something, be accountable and be responsible. If you're accountable and you're responsible, then we're good. But if you're not accountable and you're not responsible, you're not going to last long in our program. And I saw guys that exited the program at Michigan State, and I'm sure guys can give you stories that were either at your alma mater, LSU, or in Alabama, where, if you were not those 2 things, then you didn't survive in that program a long time.
And that seems pretty obvious that Nick Saban, he runs a tight ship. Maybe not the easiest coach in the world to play for, but you'll be better on the other end after you play for him. Randy Texan and asked kind of about the process, the player perspective when a new coach comes in the NFL. Randy asked, does the coach, after being hired, reach out to each individual player to share his vision and plan? And how does he reassure players who aren't happy with the firing to get them to start buying into the change? That's what might be the Titans locker room might be experiencing here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the coach is going to have individual conversations with guys on that roster. Now, how many of those guys will he sit down and have a conversation with? It varies. You come in and you assess your roster, and guys that are going to be here. So that's where you first start. You start with the Will Levises, the Jeffrey Simmons, Tajay Spears, Traylon Burks, guys that have been here for a minute, guys that you see moving forward at least this year as being a part of this team. So you go to those guys first, and then you sort of, kind of work your way down the roster. But I mean, I know just about every new coach want to meet with every guy, but sometimes it's just not feasible to meet with every guy. So, but you do want to meet with those guys that you feel are going to be cornerstones of your organization moving forward.
Cole Texan and asked D-Mase, what's your least favorite place to play in the playoffs?
Least favorite place to play in the playoffs? Ooh, man.
My least favorite place to play in the playoffs would be Kansas City this weekend.
Oh, if you're talking about this weekend, it would be Kansas City. But if you're talking about just in general places that I played playoff games, It was New England, because boy, oh boy, does it get cold up north during that time of year. And hey, you may be playing in a blizzard, you may be playing in an ice storm, one of the two. But you're not going to walk away playing in 50 or 60-degree weather. That's not going to happen. So my least favorite place to play is New England.
Well, the good thing is nobody has to worry about playing in New England in the playoffs this year.
Absolutely.
Was there one place in particular that you felt was so much more intimidating or menacing in the playoffs than it was in the regular season?
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
When that place get rocking, oh my goodness, when who was it? Wiz Khalifa came out with the Black and
Uh-huh.
Yellow, that song. Oh my goodness. If you were down and I remember, in Baltimore, we were down. I think they had just scored a touchdown on a Palomalo return for an interception. We
Uh-huh.
were at our own 15. We got stopped or something at the 15-yard line. And you're talking about between the timeout and the time that we hiked the ball, there was not a more deafening place. I mean, it was rocking. It was intimidating, very intimidating.
I mean, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, both of those places, just no matter what time of the year it is, it seems like a
Uh-huh.
scary place to play.
But just think, in Pittsburgh in the playoff, those
Oh,
yellow tiles away.
times
Oh my
10.
goodness.
Times 10. One texter texts in, asked D-Mase, who do you think, maybe not in a specific name, but just in traits, would be the ideal hire for the Tennessee Titans?
Oh man, traits. I think it has to be a guy that is able to connect with the players. I think if you look at the guys that are being hired or that have been hired in recent years, um, they've always been able to, if they're successful, they've always been able to connect with the players. And in this business, you gotta have an offensive mind. You just have to. Defense, yes, win championships, but I mean, offenses get you to that place where you can potentially win a championship. So the characteristic, you got to have a offensive sort of thought process in what you're doing. But then you got to be able to connect with these individuals because it's different now. It's not just I'm coaching you on the field. It's more than that. You got to coach these guys off the field. You got to worry about certain things that are going on in their life. So a guy that is able to sit down and connect with these individuals.
Mm-hmm. All right, appreciate everyone for their questions for D-Mase. Again, the best question for D-Mase will win a $50 voucher for the new BetMGM Sports Lounge restaurant and bar inside Bridgestone Arena. This place is awesome. We're doing the show here today. It is where the Patron Club used to be, if you're familiar with that, at Bridgestone Arena. It is updated. It's bright. They've got a ton of TVs. They've got great food. I'm excited to try out the food later today. So come hang out here at the BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. All right, Willy Donick will join us coming up next. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan Sunday for Vanderbilt women's basketball. The Commodores will be at home taking on Missouri. Pregame begins at 11:45 a.m. and tip-off is at noon. Coverage is also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com.
your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by Gary Force Acura, proud sponsor of your Nashville Predators. This is Nick Frazier as the Titans look ahead to the offseason and continue to interview candidates for the vacant head coaching job. Other news around the NFL is the Giants have hired former Raiders offensive line coach Carmen Bracilio as their next offensive line coach. Some transfer news in college football as the Texas A&M Aggies wide receiver Evan Stewart has committed to Oregon per On3 Sports. And the NCAA is expected to penalize Florida State for NIL-related violations. In baseball yesterday, the Yankees continue to restock the roster as they signed Alex Verdugo to an $8.7 million deal. But that wasn't all. They also signed Joseph Trevino, agreed to for $2.73 million. And as for tonight on the ice, the Nashville Predators are on the road in Dallas, taking on the Stars. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 with Max Hers, with Puck Drop to follow at 7. I'm Nick Frazier, and you're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We're live out here at BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena, where the old Patron Club used to be. So come out here, watch some games. They've got a bunch of TVs here. You can grab some food, grab some drinks, hang out on a game day or a non-game day. They're open every day, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Willy Donick joins the program from Dallas. Willy D, how we doing?
Hey, guys. Good to talk to you from down here at Big D, where it feels a lot like it did in Nashville when I left. Really windy and cold. Although when we arrived here yesterday, I thought I was in Florida. So it really has changed from last night to today. But we were just here last week, so another tough matchup between these two division rivals tonight. Looking forward to it.
Should be a good one. Michelle Kennedy was on with us earlier. She picked a win, so if she says it, it's got to be true.
Look, I have a lot of belief in Michelle, so I'm going to try to pick up on that vibe down here.
I do want to get into, looking back at some of our preseason predictions. Of course, NFL playoffs kick off tomorrow. But before we get into that, Willy, and some of our preseason Titan predictions, the news coming out this morning that Gerard Mayo has been hired as the New England Patriots head coach 24 hours after it was announced that Bill Belichick has been fired in New England. Diana Rossini tweeted and reported that they didn't even pick up the phone and call Mike Vrabel. So after all that, the Ben Volen report that the Kraft's home run hire would be Mike Vrabel, after Greg Bedard's article, after, and Joe and Diana Rossini's breakdown of what went wrong behind the scenes between the Titans and Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams-Strunk, that Amy Adams-Strunk was so bothered by Mike Vrabel's comments in New England. After all of this public flirting between Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots, they don't even pick up the phone and call Mike Vrabel, reportedly. What do you make of it?
Well, I was reading some on this. I'm a little bit unclear, but was there not some contractual situation with Mayo that would have been very complicated if they weren't going to give it to Mayo? And I also wonder, too, was Bill Belichick, because you see a lot of coaches, regardless of their stature, but especially if you've got some tenure and you've had a lot of success, do you have a say? Did he have a say in picking his successor? And if he had sort of promised behind the scenes that Gerard Mayo was going to be the successor, maybe that played out. But look, we've all seen, especially in college, the coach in waiting doesn't always become the coach, right? There's different things that can happen either way. But I do wonder what was going on behind the scenes. But it seems to me that they wanted to be very loyal to Gerard Mayo. That's my first take on it.
And I have seen that. I think it was Ian Rappaport that put out there that the clause in his contract, that they've worked out with the league that he would be the successor once Bill Belichick either got fired or retired. A couple thoughts on that. One, how binding was that clause? And was that clause in his contract truly a guarantee, or was it a, hey, you will be in contention for the job? Because I find it hard to believe that the Patriots might commit themselves to that, but maybe that shows their true belief in Gerard Mayo. So if that is the case, then where did this come out from that Ben Volen reported in the Boston Globe that the home run hire would be Mike Vrabel? Seems like there's a disconnect there, that if you truly believed in Gerard Mayo, that you knew that he was going to be your successor, how did all this come out about Vrabel?
I look, this is just me trying to read in between the lines and sort of maybe take a media take on things. I think Mike Vrabel, being as popular as a player as he was, and a coach that had done a lot of things in terms of accomplishments here for the Titans, and that whole weekend thing where you got the old heartstrings pulled, right? He gets honored, and you go back and reminisce about all those great times. I think there was hey, could you get Vrabel? But I think everything that I read too did say, even back then, that Mayo for a long time has been the guy that has been sort of identified as the successor. So you would have had to redo a lot of stuff there, and that may not have reflected real well, especially on Mayo, who probably would have taken it as a big, shot in the face. So I think if you're Mayo and who had played at the University of Tennessee, put in his time, was a great player in his own right for some championship teams, you got to thank the organization for being loyal. And look, it's a lot simpler, right, to just move Mayo up for all the reasons Rappaport said. You don't have to go through a whole search process, so that maybe puts them ahead of the game and how to address their offseason. Right now they know what they need to do.
Yeah, I just think it was. I mean, if you're going to have that, if that was in his contract, that, he, let's just say potentially would be the heir apparent after Bill Belichick, then, what did he do, or what did you see in the midst of all of that? Because he's been there as a coach since 2019. He was their inside linebackers coach from 2019, obviously, to last season. So you saw enough in him. You purposely went out and brought him to your staff, Bill Belichick. So you saw something in him, not just as a player, but as a leader of men. This also was a guy that was named a 7-time captain on a New England team. That speaks volumes with an organization like New England. So I'm sure that they had in their mind who they wanted their successor to be. It was just, when does Bill, or when do we mutually part ways?
Willie, did you hear Joe's conspiracy theory this morning?
I did not, but you got to fill me in because I'm dying to know.
Nick, can
we possibly get Joe's conspiracy theory from this morning?
Sure, 1 second.
Joe in full tinfoil hat.
So since this is all one big freaking soap opera, it's our soap opera, the NFL. I'm just going to throw a wild speculation out there for you, and you just do with it what you will.
Okay.
I think Jonathan Kraft wanted Vrabel to be the coach and not Gerard Mayo. And his dad wanted Gerard Mayo, and Jonathan Kraft tried to use the media to make it not happen.
I like that. I can see that.
I mean, hey, it's just me throwing stuff at the wall.
What do we make of it?
Well, I don't know. That's I don't know anything about Jonathan Kraft as opposed to is he, how much say he has or anything like that. But I do think there was a faction of media and probably, let's be honest, a faction of fans that, because of the nostalgia of Vrabel and the fact that he's got an established track record as a head coach, that probably just thought on the surface, hey, maybe Vrabel's a better candidate. But, but Mayo, they definitely had the plan that goes back a good way about Mayo. So, again, I admire them for staying loyal and believing in Mayo. And now only time will tell what he does with the opportunity. Right? Is that fair to say? I mean, I think it's easy to say, oh, well, wait a minute. Vrabel's available? Let's go down this road. But it appears that Bob Kraft said, look, we have a plan.
Yeah.
and let's stick with the plan. I also wonder what Belichick's role is in this. Do you guys? Like, if I have no idea, but I think there's maybe a part of Belichick that said, look, this guy's earned the right. He's been around. We've talked to him about this transition when the day comes, and I want you to stick to that.
And Gerard Mayo's not going to have an easy sledding. I mean, that's a Patriots team that is down
Neither
bad.
would Vrabel have if he went there, right?
Oh, no, there is not a single coach in America. I don't think Nick Saban could step in to what New England's roster situation is like, and would be able to fix it at the drop of the hat. Now, everyone would have a tough sledding. They don't have a quarterback. I mean, it's not just the quarterback. They don't really have pieces around the quarterback either. They don't really have much of a defense either. So I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough couple of years in New England. It's going to be a tough challenge for Gerard Mayo. I think that's another aspect of it, is how desirable of a job would New England be for outside candidates? If they had, in fact, picked up the phone and maybe called Mike Vrabel, called other candidates for the opening in New England, would Mike Vrabel look at what they have going on there and say, yeah, no, I'm good?
But don't you think it's a universal credibility, D-Mase? You and I have talked about this a lot. And Caroline, you have chimed in absolutely. I think we all agree that there is a universal credibility from all national media about Vrabel. So I think it's even especially true in New England, where he played and he's got all the rings and everything. Fair to say? So that just carries a lot of weight with the media.
Yeah, for some reason,
I'm sure it does.
Loves Vrabel.
Yes.
I mean, why not? I mean, listen, he won 3 Super Bowls there. He was successful his first 3 seasons here in Nashville, won Coach of the Year. So I can understand sort of, the outside, sort of love fest that they have with Vrabel. But then again, it's like, did y'all see what he's done, what he hasn't been able to do the last 2 seasons? Have y'all seen the talent pool on this team that hasn't been able to be developed? Have you seen his coaching staff? The hires that he's made that hadn't quite worked out. So maybe Kraft looked at that too and said, you know what, I'm going to go with the guy in the house.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is New England fans and Patriot fans loving Vrabel. I get that. He was on those teams, on the teams, the Tom Brady teams, the Super Bowl winning teams. What I don't get is national media or, Michael Lombardi in the GM Shuffle podcast that came out a couple days ago. How are you going to replace Vrabel? How are you going to find someone to do what Vrabel did? I can find another coach that goes 6-11 in a season. I can find someone to replace that job. But okay, let's look ahead. Let's look back. Now that the regular season is behind us, now that the playoffs are ahead of us in the wild card round this weekend, let's look at some of our preseason Titan predictions. Anybody predict, maybe in our preseason Titan predictions, that Mike Vrabel would no longer be the coach at the end of the season, Willie?
That was not one of our 10 questions, and that should tell you something, right? That we didn't even think it was worthy of being a question. So it shows you how quick things can change. For sure, but for the preseason record for the Titans, all 3 of us were wrong. Caroline said 10-7.
4-13.
Caroline had 10-7. D-Mase 11-6. I said 9-8. So all of us were off by at least 3 games, but obviously we were a little too optimistic, all 3 of us there. So I guess the preseason predictions, I don't think anybody really had them at, winning 5 or 6 games. But remember, we did note throughout the summer that most people weren't too high on that roster going in. They were in the 20s at best in almost every prediction that we saw.
And I always wonder, is that, maybe the national media being able to take a more, less emotional view to it, or is that just the national media counting out the Titans, which they sometimes have a tendency to do? I think that all of our predictions are an indication of what we truly expected the Titans to be able to do and should be able to do. The Titans kind of told us by running it back with Kevin Byard and Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry that they wanted to make a run for it. The Mike Vrabel saying, hey, we do not rebuild in this league, took that message as, okay, then if you're not rebuilding, then you're actively trying to win.
No question. So do you guys want to take the rest of our predictions that we made, or do you want to go back through the Titans predictions that we made? Because they're both quite intriguing, especially with the playoffs coming up tomorrow.
Let's do Titans predictions, and then we can get into some
Yes.
Titans predictions.
Okay, so let's run through them real quick. We just mentioned the record. One very quickly, because remember at the end of the preseason, they traded a 7th-round pick to get Nick Folk, who turned out to have a fantastic season. But the question was, with all of the musical chairs that we have seen in the past few seasons with Titans kickers, will he be the Titans kicker for the whole season? Yes or no? I said yes. You guys said no.
I'm trying to
Chalk up
remember
one for
why
Willy.
I was so down on Nick Folk. Was it because I thought that he would get hurt because he's old, or was it because I thought
think it was
that
just the
with
track
the
record,
Titans
right?
carousel?
I think I was kind of low on it because Mike Vrabel showed you like he didn't stick with kickers. If you miss one or two, it was like, all right, let's bring somebody else in here. So that alone, I didn't think he would make it the whole season. If you missed one or two, and then everybody was going to be screaming for his foot, and they were going to bring the next kicker in.
We want the foot of Nick.
Exactly.
All right. Well, one of our questions, Harold Landry, back from the ACL tear, over or under 8.5 sacks. Now, it looked pretty shaky after 4 games, and even after 8 games. He only had 1 sack in the first 4 games. He had 4 through 8 games, but as we know, he ended up with 10.5 and really surged at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one that I got right for being the optimist that I am. I went over. You guys went under on that one. And listen, it does come back around, so I'm not trying to pat myself too much on the back here because it's not like I nailed all of these.
Yeah, Willie's picking all of the predictions that he got right first.
No, you notice I'm
Exactly.
starting with the ones
he got right first.
Starting with the ones that I got right. Ryan Tannehill missed 5 games last year. Had not missed a start since joining the Titans until last year. Over or under 14.5 starts. Well, we know that went down the tubes about midway through the season, but did start the last couple games. D-Mase and I both got that one right. We went with under. Caroline went with over. So you were optimistic
Tannehill,
on Tannehill. Yeah. Titans offense, 17.5 points per game last season, 28th in the league. The NFL average was 21.9. So we set the over-under for the Titans offense. Could they get over 21 points per game? Would it be over or under 21? All 3 of us were skeptical. All 3 of us said under. And as we know, we were right. They averaged 17.9 points per game. It has been pretty frustrating, I think, and probably something that Amy Adams saw when she decided to make a change. That's 2 straight years of, right, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 2 straight years, maybe more, of right around that number. No improvement.
That's not good.
21 was definitely a higher number. That was the number 1 seed in the AFC years. I think it's been the past 2 years. But still, that's not one that I'm proud to have gotten right. That's one that I said under, but was hoping I would be wrong about it. I mean, 21 points a game, it's not asking for that much.
Right. 21 points a game would put you 19th. That would put you 19th in the league if you average 21 points a game. So it's not like we were saying, jump up into the top 10.
Right.
It would just get you out of – it would be a significant improvement, but not great improvement. And they didn't even do that. So they ended up 27th in the league at 17.9 points per game.
And what were they last year, Willie? 17.8?
17.5. 17.5 last year, which was 28th in the league. So they went from 28th to 27th.
Okay.
Who ends up with more receiving yards, Traylon Burks or DeAndre Hopkins?
Wow, I was wrong.
I hate to tell you, you went with Burks.
Yes.
And Caroline and I correctly said Hopkins, who had over 1,000 yards, but I thought it would be a lot closer, honestly, which is why I asked the question that way.
What is Traylon Burks' final receiving yard total? I don't have it
this year, final receiving yards for Burks.
What was it? 100 yards?
He ended up with, where are the yards?
I'll be shocked if it's over 250.
I think it was less than 300.
221.
221.
Oh my goodness.
16 receptions, 221 yards, and averaging 13.8 yards per catch.
Yeah. So only half as much as last year, where he had 444, and he played in 11 games in each year. So he regressed.
Oh boy.
And had a lot less targets. He had 54 targets his rookie year, only 30 targets.
Goodness gracious.
So that is a big thing for the next coach that he inherits, without a doubt. And DeAndre Hopkins, 75 catches, 1,057 yards, a solid season. But again, the efficiency, the thing that we were questioning all summer, right? What are you getting with Hopkins? I think you got probably what you thought was reasonable, right? He didn't bounce back to being a superstar, but he was very, very steady. For
Those
sure.
numbers, Willie, those numbers are good if you have a bona fide number one.
Right.
Because if you look at those numbers, that's number two numbers, 1,000 yards. It's great for a guy at his age. But if you're gonna have a really good passing attack, the next guy needs to be in that 1,000-yard range, somewhere around there.
A great point.
Just be
Great
him.
point. Titans. Okay, should we break here and then finish up the other couple that we have, and then move into the predictions here?
Yeah, let's do that coming up next. The rest of our 10 Titan questions preseason, how it shook out. If anybody predicted that this Titan season would have ended up how it did, then I tip my cap to you. So we'll continue those, recapping those questions, and of course look ahead to the playoffs this weekend coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and see to bet.
We're going to take it to the bank a little bit later in the show, 145. That's always fun, and I got mine right last week. I'm feeling good about it, so I can't wait till 145. Also, we always want to tell you about F&M Bank. You've heard me talking about them a lot lately, so they're very exciting to be a sponsor of our show. Whatever your banking needs are, F&M Bank wants you to know that they're there to serve you with their 20 convenient locations across Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. Everybody's got different financial goals these days. So simplified checking could be one of them. Maybe you're just out of college, you're just trying to get your finances in order and get off to a good start. F&M Bank's perfect for you on that. Maybe you're at that next stage. Maybe you just got married and things are getting a little more complicated financially. I know how that goes. New savings account could be what you need. Maybe you're a business owner that's looking to get things started with a small business. Need a business loan, or maybe you might be mortgage shopping. Any of these things, if they apply to you, F&M Bank is the way to go. Full service community bank that really cares about you. They're in your community. Find out the nearest location to you by going to myfmbank.com. 20 locations, myfmbank.com. We take it to the bank at 145. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase are broadcasting from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round, which today is the BetMGM Sports Lounge at Bridgestone Arena. Come hang out here. It's a blast. It is beautiful. It is open on game day or not from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Also, a little bit of breaking news in the college football side of things. Kalen DeBoer, the Washington head football coach, will serve as the next head coach at the University of Alabama following Nick Saban. I like the hire. It's not a sexy hire. It's not what I expected, but I think it's a good hire. But let's go back into our Titans questions preseason, to our 10 Titans preseason questions and our predictions for the playoffs this weekend. Willie?
Wow, tough shoes to fill. My goodness. Wow.
Toughest shoes to fill maybe in the history of the game.
Maybe so. Wow. Okay. 4 more Titans questions, and then we'll move on to our league predictions. Who ends up with more? Oh, we already got that one. Derrick Henry has, in the last 4 years leading up to this past year, here were his carries for the season. 303, 378, 219 in 8 games when he broke the foot, and then 349. And so the over-under we set was 320.5 rushing attempts. And that was our question, was would they lean a little less heavily on Derrick Henry? The answer ends up being 280. So it was under. But what's ironic about it is he still led the league in carries with 280 in 17 games. So about 5 or 6 less carries per week on that. He played all 17 games, still ended up with 280. So a very interesting number. You guys both said over. I said under. So I got that right, but it was interesting how he still played the whole year. They just gave it to him a little less.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you said he had the most carries in the league?
The most rushing attempts in the league, 280. Still led the league. Nobody had 300 carries in the entire league.
And
that tells you the state of the game.
Yeah, very true. It's an indication the running backs just aren't getting touches as much. And it is interesting. Where did Derrick Henry end up in terms of rushing yards? I know he was either second or third in the AFC, maybe top 5 in the league. So that just kind of shows you that a lot of Derrick Henry's touches came on the nitty-gritty yards. They weren't the 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown runs we might be accustomed to with Derrick Henry. It was the 2-yard pickup here, loss of 1 here, gain of 3 here kind of Derrick Henry runs.
Yes. I in my calculation, he only had 2 home run carries that I would characterize. And that would be the last week. We ran it all the way down to the 3. And the game in London where he took the direct snap and took it all the way down. Again, didn't score, but he got it inside the 5-yard line. So he didn't get as many home runs in 2023 as he has before. A steady season, down a notch, but still productive. But in this day and age, I wonder if that's what you're looking for efficiency-wise. Because, he led in carries, but Christian McCaffrey had 1,459 yards to lead the league. Derrick Henry was second, but McCaffrey had 272 carries, 8 less carries, and nearly 300 more yards. But Henry did amass the second most yards on the ground in the league.
What's one of our other preseason predictions, Willie?
Okay, let's run through these quick. This one, does it even deserve a lot of discussion? Probably not. Titans allowed 49 sacks last year. We set the over-under this year at 40.5, the NFL average. So we were thinking, could they bring that down a little bit? They had 47 the year before. So they went from 47 to 49 to 64. Whoops.
64?
64 sacks allowed.
I don't think I realized that the number was that high.
64.
I don't know why I'm so shocked. The offensive line was absolutely atrocious, but that number is shocking. My goodness.
Yes. So you guys got it right. I was more optimistic, and I went down with the ship on that one. So the next one was Will Levis start a game in 2023? Obviously, he started a handful. Caroline and I got that one right. We both said yes. D-Mase said no. So I hope people are just the fruits of this exercise are, how did we think at the beginning of the season? what was going to need to happen for them to be a good team. And you see a lot of these falling short of what they hoped they would get, and you see the end result. And then finally, who would end up with more yards from scrimmage, rushing and receiving? Tajay Spears, Chig Okonkwo, Chris Moore, Nick Westbrook-Akine. Obviously, Moore and Westbrook-Akine were outsiders. Moore had a pretty decent year as a role player. Chig Okonkwo came on a little bit at the end of the season, but obviously Tajay Spears, head and shoulders, had more. He had 453 rushing yards and another 385 receiving yards on 52 catches. He's got to get more yards per reception, I think, going forward. Yeah. But he had a promising rookie year. Okonkwo ended up with 528 receiving yards. So Spears got the edge. D-Mase and I both went with Chig, thinking it could be a breakout year for him. Spears wins it, so Caroline got that one correct.
And think about where Chig would have been had he not dropped so many of the balls that he dropped early in the season. The one that always sticks in my mind is the one in New Orleans. It was a great play. I thought it was drawn up perfectly by Tim Kelly. Could it have been a better throw from Tannehill? Sure, yeah. But that ball in New Orleans, I think about. And then, so many other drops that Chig suffered throughout the rest of the season. But I wonder what his total would have been and how different if this season and his season looks, how different that perspective looks if Chig held on to a few more of those balls.
Yep. Chris Moore, 424, 19.3 yards per catch, so only 22 catches. So a nice job as a role player, and 370 for NWI, who had his season cut short by injury. So in particular, Okonkwo and Spears, the next head coach will have a lot to think about on what he could expect, or how does he bring out more in those two guys, especially in a post-Derrick Henry.
You're going to have to get more production out of those two guys if you want this passing attack to evolve. And it's just unfortunate that, you said he dropped in regards to Chig. He dropped just as many passes as he caught. So just think how much more his numbers would have been had he not dropped catchable balls. And then just trying to find a way to get Traylon Burks involved in the offense next year. That's going to be key for the next head coach and offensive coordinator.
All right. That brings us to our league predictions. And I'll run through these quickly because I know we're short on time here. In the AFC, I was the only guy that got the Buffalo Bills as the AFC East champion. That was tough to predict. Caroline jumped on the Jet bandwagon and had her dreams shot down in the first series of the year when Aaron Rodgers blew out the Achilles.
That was a smart prediction on my part. Wow.
Well, I mean, you can't predict what happened there. D-Mase took Miami, who had a good year. That was kind of a bold pick at the time, but they didn't hang on to the division title. Baltimore, D-Mase got right because they won the North. He was the only guy that took the Ravens to win that division. Caroline and I took Cincinnati. We know the Burrows injury had something to do with that. Cincinnati rebounded to be respectable.
Willie and I both, Joe Burrow fangirls.
Yep, we did. We went down with Joe. Caroline had the Titans to win the AFC South.
My goodness.
D-Mase and I each took Jacksonville in that one. So Caroline missed on that. And D-Mase and I got burned with the collapse of the Jags. So obviously nobody took the Texans. How could we have missed that one? Jeez.
How could we have not seen this coming?
Good grief.
How could we have not seen C.J. Stroud being the best rookie quarterback? Come on. We should have saw that.
We all got Kansas City to win the West. That was probably pretty easy for us. We got that one. In the NFC, I did take Dallas. You guys went with Philadelphia. Obviously, both are in the playoffs. We all got Detroit right, picking the NFC North, so we jumped on that bandwagon, and we're right. None of us got the NFC South. D-Mase and I both took Atlanta. That didn't happen. New Orleans, of course, loses late. That was Caroline's pick, so nobody had the Buccaneers pulling that one off. And, look, the Buccaneers deserve a lot of credit. A lot of people had them like 31st or 32nd in the league, but they end up winning that thing. Caroline and I both had the 49ers to win the West. Derek took a flyer on Seattle and did not get that one right. So then the wild card picks.
By
These are the
picking
ones
Seattle,
that really,
D-Mase actually meant that he picked Seattle to fire their coach at the end of the season. Right, D-Mase?
Exactly. That's what I meant, Willie. I meant them
I didn't
to
write that down like that.
fire
I
their
didn't
head
know
coach.
that.
Yeah. I think I
Should've
said,
wrote
you know
that
what,
down.
Willie? It wasn't your fault. I think I sort of like said it, but it was after the fact, you know?
Mumbled under his breath a little bit,
got
and
you.
Pete Carroll's getting
Exactly.
fired at the end of the year.
Wild card. D-Mase and I had the Jets. Missed on that one. Caroline and D-Mase had the Pittsburgh Steelers. Correct on both.
All right.
Caroline and D-Mase each had the Chargers. Missed on that one. Caroline had Buffalo as a wild card, so that's a correct. At least you got them. They're in the playoffs. I had the Ravens in the playoffs, so that is a check mark there. And I had the Titans making it as a 9-8 wild card. That is a big fat X on that one. In the NFC, D-Mase had Dallas as a playoff team, as did Caroline. So that's a check mark there. You had them in there, but not winning the division. I went reverse, and so I had Philadelphia as a wild card. So I get that right. Caroline and I both did pick Seattle to make the playoffs as a wild card. So we both went down on that. D-Mase had San Francisco in the playoffs because he took Seattle to win the division, so he gets a check mark there. D-Mase had Minnesota. Missed on that one. Caroline took a flyer on Washington.
What in the world was I smoking?
Well, so bad because I had the Giants going back to the playoffs for a second straight year. That was a big fat X there. So I think we did reasonably well, really, on our picks. We had a decent amount. But our problem is going to be the predictions because Fangirl took Joe Burrow and the Bengals to win the whole thing. Cincinnati over San Francisco is what you have.
Doofus. But at least I had San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I do still feel good
so you
about
got a
that.
shot there. You got a shot. I had Cincinnati in the Super Bowl, so I'm out of that. But I did have Philly to win the whole thing, so I have a shot at that one. But D-Mase has got the best shot because he has the 49ers winning the Super Bowl over Miami. So that could still happen. That's got a realistic shot.
Speaking of Philadelphia, Willie, have you seen the news? The breaking news, the very important news that A.J. Brown scrubbed his Instagram of all Philadelphia Eagles-related posts?
No way.
Yes, Willie.
So shocked. I'm so shocked because he's usually so steady with the way he goes about social media. He's so consistent and steady and even-keeled, never makes any waves. What the
Totally rational social media practices.
Totally rational.
And you do it as you're going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's not scrub your Instagram of team-related posts time of the year. That's usually the off-season.
Maybe there's still hope for the trade.
Trade from the Eagles to the Titans?
Yeah. maybe it'll still turn. Maybe there's still time.
Oh, wait, just kidding. We want him back kind of trade?
Hey, now that Vrabel's gone, hey, you may be able to get him back.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I felt pretty good about predictions. Can't predict an injury. Cannot predict an injury. I think we did pretty solid all the way around. But let's see how good our predictions are for this weekend, because coming up next, we will take it to the bank. And, hey, in a good mood, we're at the BetMGM Sports Lounge. We've got the Predators tonight. We've got Wild Card Weekend this weekend, so let's give something away. Be caller 3 right now to win a $50 voucher to the new BetMGM Sports Lounge restaurant and bar inside Bridgestone Arena. This place really is awesome. It is brand new. They got a ton of TVs. I was talking to the suit earlier. He said he might come by and watch some of the games this weekend right here, and it's the perfect place to watch them. It's a blast. That's, again, caller 3. Our phone number is 615-737-1025. So good luck with that, and tune in to 1025 The Game tomorrow for Vanderbilt men's basketball. The Commodores take on Ole Miss on the road. Pre-game begins at 11:30 and tip-off is at noon. Coverage also available on the 1025 The Game app. it is now time to take it to the bank, brought to you by F&M Bank. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. Customer, community, F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. Visit one of their 20 locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. All right, before we take it to the bank this week, quickly, Nick, let's recap how we did last week.
Yes, Caroline, you did not go out so great. Willie got his.
All right, Willie.
D-Mase unfortunately had a goose egg. And as for myself, I was all over the place. But the current standings are Derek at 94, Caroline at 92, Willie jumping back up there at 78, and I'm at the bottom at 57. So we're getting there.
Last week.
You do have 94, Derek.
And Caroline has 92.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's small.
You sweating, D-Mase? You getting nervous? Last week, did I say Michael Penix Jr. 275 passing yards?
You did, and it was
I
255.
almost said 250, and I was like, 250? That's for rookie numbers. He had 255.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I was looking at it last night. I was like, oh, my goodness, 255?
Dang.
Of all people, you'd think it'd be a gimme. But I was down the same rabbit hole as you, Caroline. I went the same thing.
You said 350.
I said 325.
Oh.
Yep, 325, and yeah, there's a lot more to that. But Caroline had Michael Penix 275. Willie had Derek with a touchdown. Either Chargers, Cardinals, or Giants to win. The Giants were one of the 3 teams that did win, so Willie ka-ching there. Derek had Danico Autry to have 2 sacks and Traylon Brooks to have 60 receiving yards. Neither of those happened, unfortunately. And as for myself, Michael Penix, 325 passing. Derrick Henry, 100 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. And as we all know, I talked about this Monday, 70 yards or more from Derrick Henry on 1 run. Of course, he got 69. I want a stat correction by the NFL. That is just absolutely horrid. But
that's tough.
But go ahead. We'll have Caroline lead it off. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I will say, this morning I was thinking about what I wanted to take to the bank, and I said, I think I'm going to take it to the bank that Kalen DeBoer is going to be the next head coach at the University of Alabama. I swear that is the truth. So do I get any retroactive points for that?
No, you don't.
For telling myself in my head this morning that was going to be
not at all,
the case. Because, of course, Kalen DeBoer is just announced the next head coach. I think that's unfair. I feel like this is an inside job.
I'll give it a 3.
Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, really did not do me a solid there. But I will take it to the bank that tonight Philip Forsberg will have a point, and Matt Duchene will have a point as well.
Ooh,
Did you see Philip Forsberg make the between the legs move and score on Matt Duchene's son at the Duchene house last night?
Yeah, they're not handing anybody a win.
Yeah,
got to keep that head on a swivel. To his
D-Mase, you would have been
son.
proud because you don't like when you take it easy on the kids, right? You have to earn the win.
Oh, no, you can never take it easy on the kids, man. Come on now.
Damn them kids.
Damn those kids.
Damn them kids.
All right, D-Mase, what are you taking to the bank?
Oh, man. All right. You took my Predator one because I always try to go with a Predator. Take it to the bank when they're playing during the weekend. But I am going to say Cleveland will have 3 or more sacks of C.J. Stroud this weekend.
They got Andre Dillard playing the offensive line in Houston?
Hey, they got that Cleveland Brown defense in Myles Garrett. That's all you need.
Very true.
All right, I've got a 3-parter here. 3-parter.
Ooh.
I got 2 playoff games that I like here. I'm going Chiefs over the Dolphins plus the 4 or minus the 4. It's KC minus 4. I like the Chiefs in the extreme cold. The Dolphins, Tua, I don't think he's ever played in a game really cold, let alone -2, which is what it might be, or up like the high will be 4 or something.
The wind chill is supposed to be
brutal.
-30.
Yes. Like, that doesn't sound like a fun day for Tua to me. And not that the Chiefs are really beatable right now, but the Dolphins also are decimated with injuries here. They got problems. And so I feel like the Chiefs will be okay this week. And the other one, I'm going to take I think the Steelers are going to hang around with the Bills. I am now
I like that pick.
a full subscriber to D-Mace's thing of Josh Allen is just going to Josh Allen. And they remember how poorly they played in the first game last year. And even though the Steelers have got the T.J. Watt issue, I just think they'll find a way to hang around the game. 9.5 is too high, so give me the Steelers plus 9.5. And then the Predators, they've got 2 games. I'm going to predict a defenseman goal. One of the defensemen will score a goal in one of the 2 games. So give me a goal by a defenseman in the 2 games. They're due.
I like it.
Interesting,
I like it.
Willie. As for myself, I'm going to take Joe Flacco with 2 passing touchdowns. One of them is to David Njoku. And why not? We'll go C.J. Stroud to throw 2 touchdowns. So 4 touchdowns total between those 2.
Hey, can I get another one in here right quick?
Quickly.
A late entry.
CD Lamb will have over 120 yards receiving and a touchdown.
Ooh, I like that. He's been on fire all season long. And I like the Steelers pick over the Bills, Willie. I might double down on that with you.
I don't think they're going to win the game.
I
don't think they win the game, but I think they'll cover. I think they'll cover.
I'm going to take the Steelers to win.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
That's the degree of difficulty right there.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back Monday at 11 a.m. Stillman and Company is up next.
Be loved and love on your people. Peace.